Alright, we got a 2005 Toyota sitting here, working on the AC on it. This one's been a little bit frustrating because the AC is coming and going. And she told me about it, and I told her it's probably going to be the compressor. The compressors are magnetic, and over time the magnets kind of wear out. And anyway, she had dropped it off earlier in the week, and I had it for about 3 hours, and it stayed on the entire time. Everything was working fine, so I didn't feel comfortable just saying, well, let's just put a compressor on and see what happens. So I gave it back to her, let her drive it some more and see. It's been doing it for about 3 weeks. Today she called me and said, oh, it's off right now. It's been off for a long time. I'm going to come by. I said, that's fine. Come on by. Let's take a look at it. It's actually on right now, but I'll show you real quick what I got going on. So here's the pressures on it. It's pretty normal for this temperature out. You can see that test light right there that's lit up. And I don't know if you'll be able to see. Compressor's actually on right now, but it's so everything's working the way it should. But when she brought it over, I put the test light down there and it was on, but the compressor wasn't. So what that tells you is everything's good all the way down to the compressor. You don't have a relay problem. You don't have any kind of HVAC control problem inside the dash. Everything, all the wiring's good. It's just a one wire coming out of this particular compressor. It's probably got grounded to the block, and then that's a power wire that the computer grounds out to make it turn on. So anyway, I just probed that wire. The light came on, but the compressor wasn't on. So that tells you everything's good, but the compressor, the clutch is going out on it, which is good. That way we verify it, and we don't change parts. We don't have to. So the first thing we're going to do is suck down the system real quick, and then we'll go get the parts for it. Alright, so I got the recovery machine hooked up, and we're going to go ahead and suck it down. I realize most people aren't going to have a recovery machine. I don't recommend just letting off into the air. A lot of shops, especially if you find a smaller shop, maybe an independent shop, they'll probably suck it down for you, either for free or for relatively cheap. And that's the route I would go. So anyway, that's my disclaimer. We're just going to go ahead and open these up and start sucking it down. We'll wait till those gauges get down to zero on my gauges, and then we'll be ready to start taking it apart. Alright, now that we got it sucked down to zero, we're going to go ahead and take the belt. I'm going to go ahead and take the belt off first. Got a 14 mil right here. Just loosens up a little bit, and then you have a 12 millimeter on the side, and then a 12 millimeter on top. Just loosen the one on the side a little bit, and then start loosening the top, and that'll loosen the alternator adjuster, and you can slide the belt off. So I went ahead and did that already, so I'm sliding the belt off. So anyway, they have to come out the top. So we got to remove this alternator. So we got the one clip here. We just pull out, and then we have probably a 10 or a 12 millimeter on top we have to take out, and then we're going to take out that long bolt and then that bracket here, and that alternator should just pop right out. So let me do that real quick, and then we'll get back to this compressor. Alright, on this alternator you got the regular clip, then you have the 10 millimeter on the top, and then you're going to have it's going to be sitting in like this. This is a 14 mil, the big bolt that goes out. And then you have that one on the side, 12 millimeter, which is part of the adjuster. Just take that bolt completely out. And then you have this little side bracket right here. And that's 14 that holds it to the top. And there's a 12. Just loosen that up, and that'll be enough to get it out of the way. And just pull your wiring harness up out of the way. You can see right there we got the compressor. You got 4 12 millimeter bolts on the compressor. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I believe we got to remove that bracket to get it out. Let me double check real quick, and I'll come right back. Alright, you got this bracket down there on the front. You need to loosen the 12 millimeter that's right here, take it completely out. And then there's a wiring harness that goes along, connects right in here. Just remove that, and then this clamp will come completely out, or this bracket. And then you can pull that up straight up through this hole right here. So that's how it comes out. There's really no need to pull that bottom shield off on your van. Everything comes out from the top pretty much. So anyway, we're going to go look at the new one, see if we need, how much oil we need to add or what they got going on with that, and then we'll start putting the new one back in there. Alright, so here's kind of an annoying thing with these compressors. We went ahead and put the studs in. You got to pull the old studs out of the old compressor. Make sure you put them back in the same holes, which that's pretty standard fare nowadays. Most compressors don't come with the studs. It's a little annoying, but it's no big deal. But this is what was super annoying on this one. So this compressor is the new compressor, and this is the old one. Now you can see here, it has a standard plug. It goes right in here like this, and then it grounds out against the compressor, and then this is what goes to your actual car where your pigtail plugs in. And they gave me just like a blank push-in connector here, and this is what's supposed to be on here. This is what the connector is supposed to look like. Now usually they give you the right connector to go with it, and I mean I might have been able to de-pin this connector and then pin this one in, but I'm not going to waste my time doing that. I don't like doing that. I shouldn't have to do it. So all I did was just change the connector. You just unplug it from here, and then I just used the old wire and the old ground and everything. It's in good shape. Nothing was wrong with that anyway, but that's annoying that they can't even give you the right connector on this compressor. Yeah, I'm not going to rig it up or whatever. Now the other thing on this one is it says it comes pre-charged with 3 ounces of oil. The problem with that is normally we were always taught whatever you drain out of the compressor is what you put back in, because you're going to have oil throughout your whole entire system. You're going to have oil in your, even if you suck it down with a machine, you're still going to have oil in your system, in your lines, in your compressor, your expansion valve, your evaporator. So this has 3 ounces in it. When I drained this out, I only got maybe an ounce out of it. So this has 2 extra ounces. Now you will suck some oil out when you suck the Freon out, but this is telling you to look in the book and then add whatever the system's supposed to be. That if you did that, you'd be way overcharged. So I'm looking at it like I took maybe less than an ounce out of this one. This one's got 3 ounces, so that's what I'm going to leave it at. I'm not going to put any more oil in the system. You put too much oil in the system, and then you can start clogging up your orifice tube or your expansion valve, and you can have other kinds of problems with your system. So I'm not doing that. I don't know why. They should have just kept it the way they used to, where you drain out whatever comes out of here, put it in new stuff in here, measure it out, and then you're done. So anyway, don't complain about that. So this is anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go back and put this on, and this is a core, so that's going back in the box. So just make sure you put your studs back in the same place. There is other holes you can put them in. If you don't, then your line won't go on right. You'll be trying to figure out why. So anyway, we'll go ahead and slide this thing back in and start bolting it up, and then we can start putting it under a vacuum while we put the alternator and everything back on. Alright, now's a good time, just before you get everything in the way, to go ahead and change your seals. I just use a pick and pick it out real carefully, and then the new one you just slide it over, obviously, and put it back. And it's not a bad idea to put a little pag oil around these seals before you actually put them on the compressor, just to give them a little lubrication. So I'm just going to go ahead and do both of them real quick. And these seals here, I don't think this system had any leak in it, but these seals are pretty wore out. So anyway, I'll put these on and then I'll pick it back up. Alright, so I went ahead and bolted it back in and put those two new lines in with 2 new seals, put a little pag oil around the seals, got the bracket back in and bolted up, and got the compressor bolted back up. Now I got the vacuum machine on. We're just going to go ahead and vacuum it out. And I just turned it on, and we're already almost pegged out. Negative pressure on this, so we're going to do this. I went ahead before I turned the alternator on, so it takes about 30 minutes to suck it out and make sure it's vacuumed out. So I'm going to go ahead and put the alternator on while it's doing that and get all that back together. And that should take, you want to leave that on there about 30 to 40 minutes. You can rent those at auto parts store if you don't have one. Do not skip this step, because your AC will never be efficient and it'll eventually just go out early. So do not skip this step. What we're going to do now is just run this about 30-40 minutes, and then we'll close these valves and turn it off and see if we have any leaks. If we have any leaks, this gauge here will start to move back to 0 if there's any kind of leak in the system. I don't suspect that because it was working good before we did all this, and we put new seals in it, so it should be good. But anyway, we'll go ahead and wait the 30 or 40 minutes while I put the alternator back on, and then we'll check for leaks. Alright, got the alternator back in. Just put it back in the way it came out. It's pretty easy. And I've had it, took the vacuum machine off it. It's been about 20 minutes now or so, and this is what you should see if you have no leaks. That's still in negative vacuum. Now if that had moved up to 0, then you got a pretty big leak. If it moves a little, you can kind of judge how bad your leak is by how much this needle moves. If you got a real slow leak, and say you've had it off for 30 minutes, it might move a little bit. But this obviously hasn't moved at all. It's still almost all the way pegged out, so there's no leaks at all in this system. But if this needle moves, you have a leak, and there's no point in wasting your Freon or R134 putting it back in. So right now I'm going to look and see how much goes in, and then we'll measure it and start putting it in and check it out. Alright, so here on the Toyota, you look right here, it's real hard to read, but it's minimum of 1.65, maximum 1.91 on the charge for R134. We're sitting at 1910 on the thing, so we're going to go to 17.19, which would be the max. I might go a little bit less than that, but around 17.19. So I'm going to go ahead and start charging this, and it's always a good idea to open your valve or your can and then purge out the air before you start putting it in. So we'll do that, and then we'll just slowly start introducing the refrigerant inside there. Alright, so if you remember, it was 161 to 195. I put about 1.85 pounds in there, so I'm a little bit lower than max, but higher than minimum, and we're looking pretty good on the pressures there. Went ahead and drove it. It's pretty cold. We'll go out one more time and just double check it, but you know, we put in pretty close to max on there, so I'm not going to put any more in on it, and we'll go take it for a quick test drive. Alright, so just took it out for a run. It's nice and cold. We're at about 40 on both of those, so we're good to go. Only thing I would stress on this, don't skip vacuum out the system. You don't want to skip that, and that's basically about it. It's not too bad of a job. Take the alternator off. Disconnect your battery when you do that. There's really nothing on the bottom you have to get to. Everything's on the top, so there's no point in taking any shields off or doing anything underneath. So anyway, that's about it on this one. It's 05 Toyota Sienna AC compressor. Thanks for watching. As always, God bless.